I got it right on the ninth year. Flowers on the counter. The card I rewrote twice because the first one didn't sound like me. A reservation she mentioned months ago. I set it all up before she came downstairs. When she walked in, she stopped, looked at everything, then looked at me. I thought this would fix something. It didn't. She smiled, but it didn't reach the place it used to. "Happy anniversary," I said. "Thank you," she replied. And in that moment, I could see it clearly. I hadn't missed 1 year. I'd missed 8. We got married 8 years ago. Nothing complicated about it. No big drama. No pressure from anywhere. It just made sense. She was easy to be around. Clear in a way I didn't have to work at understanding. And I thought I was a good husband. Not perfect, but solid. I showed up, paid attention to the things that seemed obvious, handled what needed handling. That felt like enough. The first anniversary, I forgot. Not completely. It just slipped. Work was busy. Something ran late. And by the time I got home, she had already set the table. There was a small cake on the counter. Nothing big, just something she picked up on the way home. She smiled when I walked in. "Happy anniversary," she said. That was the moment it hit me. I remember setting my keys down slower than usual. "I'm sorry," I said. "I didn't." "It's okay," she replied. Quick, easy, like it really was. We had dinner, talked like we normally did. I told myself I'd make it up to her the next weekend. That should have mattered more than it did. It didn't. The second year it happened again. Not exactly the same. I remembered in the morning. Thought about it for a minute. Then the day filled up. Meetings, calls, things that felt urgent at the time. By the time I checked my phone again, it was late afternoon. There was a message from her. "Dinner tonight?" No mention of the date. No reminder. I stared at the screen for a second, then typed back. "Yeah, sound good." That should have told me something. It didn't. At dinner, she brought it up casually. "Another year," she said, lifting her glass slightly. I froze for half a second, then nodded. "Yeah," I said. "Another year." She held my gaze just long enough for it to register, then smiled and took a sip. No correction, no question, just noted. I apologized again later that night. More directly this time. "I should have planned something," I said. She shrugged lightly. "It's fine," she replied. That word again. Fine. I accepted it. Not because I believed it fully, because it made things easier. By the third year, she didn't bring it up at all. No cake, no message, no reminder sitting quietly in the room. The day passed like any other. I realized it the next morning. Sitting in the car, engine running, about to leave for work. I checked the date on my phone, sat there for a second, then drove anyway. I thought about saying something that night, acknowledging it late. I didn't. It felt unnecessary at that point, like bringing it up would only make it bigger than it needed to be. That was the logic. Simple, convenient. And once I accepted that, it settled. The anniversary became just another date. Not ignored exactly, just not held. She didn't mention it, so I didn't think about it. That became the pattern. Not just for that. For other things too. Small preferences. Details she'd mention once and not repeat. Things that mattered enough to say, but not enough in her mind to push. I thought the lack of conflict meant we were doing well. No arguments. No tension. Everything smooth. That should have felt like a signal to look closer. It didn't. It felt like confirmation. We were steady. Easy. Working. I never asked what she had adjusted to make it feel that way. Never checked what she had stopped expecting. I just moved inside it. Comfortable. Unquestioned. I thought silence meant things were fine. It doesn't. Sometimes it just means someone stopped asking. And I didn't notice when that happened. Not the first year. Not the second. Not even the third. By the time it became normal, it didn't feel like anything had changed. That was the problem. Nothing had broken. So I never thought to fix anything. After that third year, it stopped existing in any visible way. No mention, no reminder, no shift in tone. The date would pass, and nothing in the room would tell you it mattered. I took that at face value. If it mattered, she'd say something. If it didn't, then it didn't. That was the logic I stayed inside. It made things simple. and simple felt like working. The rest of our life moved the same way. No big arguments. No sharp moments where something had to be addressed immediately. We got through days cleanly. Work, dinner, weekends, plans that came together without much friction. From the outside, it looked solid. From inside it, it felt easy. That should have been a signal to check something. It wasn't. It felt like proof. We were fine. Looking back, there were small things. Not loud enough to stop anything, but present. She stopped bringing up certain plans after mentioning them once. Stopped repeating preferences if I missed them the first time. Stopped expecting follow-up. At the time, I read that as flexibility. Like she was low maintenance. Easy to be with. I didn't consider the other version of it. That she was adjusting downward. Quietly. I remember one conversation, maybe 5 or 6 years in. We were at dinner, just the two of us. She mentioned a place she wanted to go. Maybe sometime, she said. I nodded. Yeah, we can do that. We didn't. Not because I decided not to. It just didn't come back up. A few weeks later, I mentioned somewhere I wanted to try. She said yes immediately. We went that weekend. I didn't connect those two things. Not then. I thought that's how it worked. You say something, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. No weight attached. That's how I treated most things. That should have created friction. It didn't, because she adjusted around it. She stopped expecting follow-through. And once she stopped expecting, I stopped noticing there was anything to follow through on. That was the pattern. Quiet. Self-reinforcing. I thought the lack of complaints meant everything was aligned. It didn't. It meant one side had stopped asking. I didn't check what that cost her, or what it changed in how she moved through the relationship. I just stayed inside the version that felt easy for me. By the 7th year, everything looked stable. We knew each other's routines, knew how to move around each other without needing to explain much. There was comfort in that. Predictability. Nothing felt like it was slipping. That was the part one misunderstood. Stability isn't always a sign things are being held well. Sometimes it's just a sign nothing is being tested anymore. I thought consistency meant connection. It doesn't. Not always. By the 8th year, the anniversary passed without even a moment of recognition. Not from her. Not from me. It didn't register until a few days later. I saw the date on something, an email, maybe, and it clicked. I paused for a second, then kept moving. That was it. No correction. No acknowledgement. Just gone. I thought that meant we had outgrown it. That we didn't need to market anymore. That we were beyond that kind of thing. I didn't ask if that was true. I assumed it. That's the part that holds now. Not the missed dinners. Not the forgotten flowers. The assumption. I decided something didn't matter anymore. Because it had become quiet. And I never checked whether it was quiet because it didn't matter. Or because she had stopped expecting me to show up for it. By the time I noticed the difference, the pattern had already been in place for years. And it didn't feel like a problem. It felt normal. That was the real shift. Nothing had broken. Everything had just lowered. And I had mistaken that for things getting easier. The 9th year didn't start differently. Same routines. Same pace. Nothing about it suggested I was about to notice anything. It wasn't a single moment. Not something sharp enough to point at. Just a few things that didn't sit the way they used to. She mentioned a date once, early in the year. Not directly. Just in passing. October's coming up fast, she said. I nodded. Yeah, I replied. That should have been enough for me to catch it. It wasn't. It only connected later. There was another moment a few weeks before. We were sitting on the couch, something on TV neither of us was really watching. She said, "Do you remember what we did our first year?" I thought about it. "Dinner, right?" I said. She nodded. Yeah. Then she went quiet again. No follow-up. No lead into anything else. That should have felt like an opening. It didn't. I let it pass. I thought she was just being nostalgic. I didn't ask anything back. That was the pattern. Small moments. Missed twice. Once when they happened. And again when they could have been revisited. Then a few days before the date, it finally landed. I was at work going through emails. Saw the calendar. Paused for a second longer than usual. October. That was it. No reminder from her. No shift in how she was acting. Just the date. And for some reason, it didn't feel like the previous years. It didn't feel optional. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen without reading anything. I thought about the last year. Nothing. Not even a mention. And for the first time, that didn't feel like ease. It felt like absence. That was the moment it shifted. Not dramatically. Just enough. I opened a new tab, started searching. Restaurants, reservations, places she hadn't mentioned before. I remembered one specifically. Something she said months ago, casually. That place looks nice. I found it. Booked it. Didn't overthink it. Then I ordered flowers. Picked a card. Wrote something, crossed it out, wrote it again. It felt unfamiliar. Not difficult. Just late. I thought getting it right this time would reset something. Like it would land cleanly and everything before would flatten out. That was the assumption. Simple. Convenient. The night before, I set everything up. Made sure it would be there when she came downstairs. No scrambling. No last-minute effort. Everything in place before she even saw it. I stood in the kitchen for a second after finishing. Looked at it. The flowers. The card. The way it all sat together. It looked right. That mattered more than it should have. I thought if it looked right, it would feel right. The next morning, I heard her coming down the stairs. I adjusted slightly, straightening up without thinking. She walked in. Slowed. Looked at everything. That part matched what I expected. Then she looked at me. That didn't. There was no confusion. No surprise. She understood immediately what it was. That should have been enough. It wasn't. She held the look for a second. Long enough that I could see her trying to place it. Trying to find a reaction that fit. I felt something shift before she said anything. Not outside. Inside. Like I was slightly out of sync with the moment. Happy anniversary, I said. My voice sounded steady. Practiced even. Thank you, she replied. She smiled. It was real, but it didn't land where I thought it would. Not relief. Not warmth. Just acknowledgement. I watched her for a second longer than I should have. Trying to find what I expected to see. It wasn't there. I thought getting it right would bring something back. It didn't. And standing there, with everything finally in place, I realized I might have arrived at the moment after it had already passed. Dinner went well. That was the strange part. Everything about it worked. The restaurant was right. The table, the timing, the way the evening moved. I stayed present, actually listening, not just waiting for my turn to speak. She responded, smiled at the right moments, asked things back, held the conversation the way she always had. From the outside, it would have looked exactly like what I thought I was fixing. That should have been reassuring. It wasn't. There was something underneath it. Not tension, not distance in an obvious way. Just space. Like we were both in the same place, but not fully landing in it together. At one point, I reached for my glass and realized I'd been holding it without drinking. I set it down, adjusted my posture slightly. Small movement. Grounding. She was talking about something from work. I nodded, followed it, asked a question. Everything was technically right. That was the problem. It felt like I was doing something correctly. Not naturally. I thought this would feel like returning to something. It didn't. It felt like trying to recreate something that had already changed. When the check came, I paid without thinking about it. No hesitation. No second-guessing. We stood up, thanked the staff, walked out together. Same rhythm. Same pace. On the way to the car, she slipped her hand into mine. Automatic. Familiar. I held it. That part still worked. But even that felt lighter than it used to. Not in a good way. Just less weight behind it. In the car, she was quiet. Not withdrawn. Not upset. Just contained. I started the engine, adjusted the mirror, pulled out onto the street. Neither of us spoke for a minute. The road was mostly empty. Streetlights passing at regular intervals. I thought about saying something. Asking how she felt. Whether the night meant anything different. I didn't. The question felt too late. Instead, I focused on the road. hand steady on the wheel. She looked out the window, not avoiding me, just elsewhere. That unsettled me more than anything else that night. If she had been upset, I would have known where to step. If she had been cold, I would have understood the direction. But this felt like something already settled, something that didn't need to react. I thought getting it right would create a moment, a shift. It didn't. It just revealed where we already were. When we got home, she took off her shoes, set them by the door, moved through the space the way she always did. No pause, no lingering. I hung my jacket, watched her for a second, then followed her in. A few minutes later, she came back into the kitchen, picked up the card, read it again, carefully, then set back down. That was really thoughtful, she said. Her tone was warm, genuine. That mattered, but it didn't change what I had felt earlier. Yeah, I said. I didn't add anything, didn't try to extend it. She nodded once, then moved past me. Normal. Everything about it was normal. I thought that would settle something. It didn't. It made it clearer. A few days later, she asked if we could talk. Not urgently, not emotionally, just directly. Can we sit down later? She said. I nodded. Yeah, of course. My first instinct was to prepare, to line things up in my head, explain the effort, point to what I had done this time, show that I had corrected something. That should have been enough. It wasn't. Something about the way she asked stopped that. There was no accusation in it, no edge, which meant explaining myself wouldn't land the way I thought it would. I sat with that for a while, longer than I usually would, and for the first time, I decided something before the conversation even happened. I wasn't going to explain first. I wasn't going to defend anything. I was going to listen, fully, even if it didn't match the version of things I had been holding on to. That should have felt uncomfortable. It didn't. It felt necessary, like I was finally stepping into something that had been there the whole time. I thought the conversation would be about the anniversary. It wasn't, and something in me already knew that, before we even sat down to have it. We sat at the table that night, same place we'd had 100 normal conversations. Dinner, plans, small things that didn't need much attention. This one felt different before it started. Not tense, just defined. She didn't ease into it. I need to tell you what the last few years have felt like, she said. No build-up, no soft entry, just clear. I nodded. Okay. She held my gaze for a second, like she was checking if I meant it. Then she started. I stopped asking for things, she said. Her tone wasn't sharp, not emotional in the way I expected, just steady. At first, I thought you were just forgetting, she added, like it would correct itself. I leaned back slightly, hands resting on the table. Didn't interrupt. Then it didn't, she said. A small pause. And I didn't want to keep reminding you of things that mattered to me. That line sat there, clean, no extra weight. I didn't want to feel like I was asking you to care, she added. That should have hit harder. It didn't. It landed quietly and stayed. I thought this would turn into a list. Specific moments, dates, things I missed. It didn't. She wasn't building a case. She was describing a pattern. So I adjusted, she said. I just stopped expecting it. I picked up my glass, took a small sip, set it back down. My hands felt steady. That surprised me. I told myself it wasn't important, she said, because that was easier than feeling like it was and nothing was happening. I nodded once, not as agreement, just recognition. She wasn't looking for me to argue with it. She was telling me what it had been like to live inside it. I didn't stop caring about our anniversary, she said. I stopped expecting you to. That was the line that held everything together. Simple, clear, unavoidable. I thought I'd feel defensive hearing it. I didn't, because while she was saying it, I realized something I hadn't let myself sit with before. I knew, not clearly, not in a way I acknowledged, but I knew it mattered more to her than I acted like it did. I had seen it in those early years. The way she said it, the way she paused, and I chose what was easier. I let her silence mean it didn't matter, because that version required nothing from me. I rested my hands flat on the table, didn't move them. I think I knew, I said. The words surprised me as they came out. Not planned, not shaped, just there. She looked at me, didn't interrupt. I knew it mattered more to you than I acted like it did. I added, I just didn't hold on to it. That was the closest I could get to it. Not an explanation, not a defense. Just true. I assumed when you stopped bringing it up, it meant it wasn't important anymore, I said. I didn't ask if that was actually what was happening. She didn't respond right away. Not because she disagreed, because she was placing it. I thought this would feel like admitting something I'd been avoiding. It didn't. It felt like saying something that had been sitting there for years. Unsaid, I chose what was easier, I said, instead of what mattered to you. There it was. No room around it. No softer version. She exhaled quietly. Not relief. Not frustration. Just acknowledgement. That's what it felt like, she said. That was it. No escalation. No argument. Just alignment. I thought the moment would become heavier after that. More emotional. More difficult to hold. It didn't. It settled. I looked at her, really looked this time. Not trying to fix anything. Not trying to move past it. Just seeing what was there. I'm sorry, I said. Not for the date. Not for the dinner. For letting you carry that on your own. The words felt different than the apologies before. Less reactive. More placed. She nodded once. Didn't say anything right away. That mattered. She wasn't rushing to accept it. She was letting it sit where it belonged. We stayed there for a minute. No one trying to move it forward. No one trying to close it too quickly. I thought the apology would fix something. It didn't. It clarified something. And that turned out to matter more. Because for the first time, we were talking about the same thing. Not the anniversary. Not the dinner. The pattern underneath it. And once that was on the table, there wasn't anywhere left to hide from it. We didn't separate after that conversation. That would have been simpler in some ways. Cleaner to explain. But the version of the marriage I'd been living inside didn't survive it. The easy one. The steady one. The one I thought was working because nothing ever got loud. That was gone. And once it was gone, I couldn't go back to pretending quiet meant the same thing as peace. The next few days felt different immediately. Not dramatic. Not hostile. Just less padded. There was less automatic smoothing over. Less of that quiet instinct to keep things comfortable and moving. At breakfast, if she wanted something, she said it plainly. Not sharply. Not cold. Just directly. Can you grab more coffee when you're out? I need you to text me if you're running late. I don't want to make that decision by myself. Simple sentences. The kind that shouldn't have felt new in a marriage that old. But they did. That should have made things worse. It didn't. It made them clearer. And I had to adjust to that. Not because she was asking for too much. Because I was finally hearing things before they had been worn down into something easier for me to ignore. That was the shift. Not bigger gestures. Not some sudden version of me becoming perfect. Just less assumption. More asking. More checking. It sounds small when you say it that way. It isn't. A week after the conversation, I was in the kitchen early. Same place I'd stood on the 9th anniversary, thinking I had finally done something right. The flowers were still there in the vase. Not fresh anymore. Not ruined either. Just changing. A little softer around the edges. A few petals starting to curl. I stood there looking at them for a second longer than I needed to. They weren't meaningless. That mattered. The dinner mattered. The card mattered. Getting it right mattered. It just didn't do what I thought it would do. I thought one good year would outweigh the other 8. It didn't. That's not how accumulation works. You don't erase a pattern with one exception. You just interrupt it. And sometimes interruption is the beginning, not the repair. I picked up one fallen petal from the counter and dropped it in the trash. Small movement. Quiet morning. Then I heard her coming downstairs. This time I didn't brace for a reaction. Didn't wait for a moment to be created. I just poured coffee into 2 mugs and turned when she walked in. She looked tired. Normal tired. Not symbolic, not loaded. Just a person I had been married to for 8 years and was maybe only now starting to listen to properly. Morning, I said. Morning, she replied. I handed her the mug. She took it, nodded once, and leaned lightly against the counter. No distance in it. No special warmth either. Just real. That was more honest than what I'd been calling ease before. We started talking differently after that. Not all at once. Not perfectly. There were awkward moments. Times I asked something too late. Times she said something plainly, and I still felt the instinct to defend myself before I stopped. That part was humbling. I'd always thought of myself as steady, reasonable, easy to live with, and maybe I was in certain ways. But easy is not the same as attentive. Steady is not the same as present. That line stayed with me, because it was the problem underneath everything else. I had confused not making trouble with actually showing care. I had treated the absence of conflict like proof of love, when a lot of it had just been her carrying disappointment quietly so it wouldn't become another thing to manage. That was hard to sit with. Not because she said it cruelly, because she didn't. If she had come at me angry, I might have known where to put my own reaction. But she didn't do that. She just described the marriage I had helped create, and it was close enough to the truth that I couldn't step around it. A month later, she said something at dinner that would have passed right by me before. I don't want to have to make everything important sound casual, just so it doesn't feel like pressure, she said. We were halfway through eating. Nothing dramatic around it. I set my fork down. Okay, I said. And then, because I would have stopped there before, I asked, what have you been doing that with? She looked at me for a second. Not suspicious, just checking whether I actually wanted the answer. Then she started telling me. Trips, family plans, small traditions, certain conversations she'd stopped starting because she could feel herself already lowering the stakes before the words even came out. I listened, really listened, didn't fix, didn't reframe, didn't rush to reassure her with some version of, I didn't mean it like that. Meaning hadn't helped us much so far. Attention did. That should have felt uncomfortable. It did. But it also felt necessary in a way comfort never had. That was the pattern break. The marriage didn't become smoother after that conversation. It became more direct. And for a while, direct felt rougher than quiet ever had. There were moments where I missed the old rhythm. The one where everything slid by without needing to be named. But I don't miss it now. Because I know what it cost her to keep it that smooth. And knowing that changes what comfort means. A few weeks after the anniversary, I found the card I'd written tucked slightly under a stack of mail on the sideboard. Not thrown away. Not displayed. Just there. I picked it up, read it again. All the right words. All the effort I was proud of at the time. I almost laughed. Not because it was bad. Because it was late. That was the part one hadn't understood before. You can be sincere and still be late. You can finally get something right and still be standing in the middle of what your earlier silence created. I set the car back down and left it where it was. No need to make it symbolic. The flowers stayed in the vase another few days. Then she threw them out one morning while I was taking the trash bags to the curb. When I came back in, the vase was empty. Clean, drying upside down by the sink. I looked at it for a second. That should have felt sadder than it did. It didn't. It felt accurate. The flowers had done what they could do. No more, no less. That's where we are now. Still married. Still learning. There are conversations we would have avoided before that we have now without circling them for days. She says what she needs with less softening. I ask more questions before deciding silence means everything is fine. Some of it still feels unfamiliar. But unfamiliar isn't always bad. Sometimes it's just what honesty feels like when you haven't been using it enough. The version of us I thought I was protecting by keeping things easy wasn't actually stronger. It was thinner. This one is less comfortable sometimes. Less automatic. But it's real in a way the other one wasn't. And once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. The 9th year mattered. It just didn't matter for the reason I thought. I didn't fix the marriage with flowers and a reservation. I finally saw it, and that turned out to be the first useful thing I'd done in a long time. Nothing went back to how it was, and that was the point. I still think about those flowers sometimes, not because they failed, but because they told the truth. They were thoughtful. They were real. They were just never going to carry 8 quiet years by themselves. If stories like this sound familiar, where silence ends is where I keep telling them. And tell me, have you ever done the right thing too late and only then understood what the real problem was?